This is honestly probably my most requested case to date. 19-year-old Jessica Chambers was found walking out of the woods, her entire body in flames, clinging to life. Jessica was born in 1995 in a tiny Mississippi town called Cortland, and I mean tiny, only around 500 people lived there, and it was the kind of small town where everyone did know everyone, but not the kind of town where people left their doors unlocked and everyone felt safe, because crime was common in that town. And a lot of people had a criminal record for minor things, major things, and one of those people included Jessica's biological dad, who once went to prison but was later released and got a job as a mechanic. When Jessica was little, only 3 years old, her parents got divorced, her dad got remarried, Jessica stayed living with her mom, and she ended up gaining a lot of step siblings. Jessica has been described as a very smart girl. She was also a cheerleader, and she was really close to her older brother Ben. But tragically, in 2012, while she was still in high school, Jessica lost her brother Ben in a horrible car accident. After that, when she was in high school, Jessica started hanging out with the wrong people, with the wrong crowd. She ended up getting arrested for selling Mary Jane, and at one point she also started dating a guy who was in prison, 28-year-old Travis Sanford. But even with all of that, Jessica was truly such a loved person. Her friends adored her, her family cared about her so much, and she was overall just the kind of girl that people liked. Now fast forward to December 6th of 2014. That day, Jessica told her mom that she was going to go to the gas station to get gas and said she would be right back. That was around 5 p.m. But Jessica never came back, and her mom started texting her after hours had passed, making jokes saying, "What did you do? Drive to Memphis?" But Jessica was not answering. Her mom called her. It went straight to voicemail. Her mom called her again, and this time she did pick up and said that she would be back very soon to clean her room. But something was off about that phone call. Her voice was so quiet, and in the background of the call, it was just strangely quiet as well. And then at 8:07 p.m., 911 receives a call of two men that were driving by calling to report a burning car. Firefighters showed up within minutes, and what they saw was scarring. They were all standing around the scene looking at this car up in flames, and out of the woods, all of a sudden, a girl starts walking out towards them in a terrible condition. She was burned from head to toe. All of her skin was charred. Her hair was gone. One firefighter by the name of Cole rushed to the girl and wrapped her up in a blanket. The girl collapsed near the truck and whispered something like, "Help me." The firefighter asked for her name and then says, "Who did this to you?" And the girl is trying to answer, but she's having such a hard time speaking. She's struggling so hard to get any kind of words out. It's so hard to understand her, but it sounds like she's saying something along like Eric, but then another firefighter says that it sounded more like Derek. And the girl keeps trying to say it more than once, but they cannot understand her. That girl was 19-year-old Jessica Chambers, and she was immediately life-flighted to a hospital in Memphis. When her parents found out and heard what happened to their daughter, they were horrified. Their stomachs sank when they learned that their daughter was in the hospital, and her mom was also confused because she had just been with Jessica. Jessica was only going to the gas station, so what happened? When her mom made it to the hospital, she ran into the room where Jessica was lying in. She wanted to be right next to her, but Jessica was barely clinging to life. Her mom could see how much pain she was in, and she leaned into Jessica, and in complete and utter devastation, she whispered to her, "It's okay, baby. We're here. If you need to go, you can go." Jessica then took one last breath and she passed away. 93% of her body was burned. The autopsy showed smoke inhalation and burns as her cause of death. And on Jessica's clothes, they found traces that she had been completely doused in gasoline. So whoever did this on purpose. But who would do something like this? Who would commit such a horrible crime seemingly out of nowhere? Investigators started an investigation almost immediately, and they began by tracing her last steps. Meanwhile, the internet was absolutely blowing up with rumors about what could have happened. People suspected the gas station clerk, but he was cleared as a suspect. Jessica's current boyfriend, he was in prison, so he was cleared as a suspect, and people at one point even started suspecting her father, but he was also eventually cleared. Jessica's mom, Lisa, tells officers that earlier in that day, she had been hanging out with a friend by the name of Kesha. They were driving around, and the police were able to confirm this, that Jessica and Kesha had been together driving around, and they also learned that there was a guy in the car with them, Quentin Tellis. Jessica had only known Quentin for around 2 weeks. He was 27 years old, lived with his mom almost directly across from the local gas station, and he had a criminal record. Burglary, jail time, you name it. So Quentin is brought in for questioning, and he says, "Yeah, I do know Jessica, but I don't really know her all that well." He confirms that he was in the car driving around with them, but then says that Jessica just dropped him off, and then that was that. But then investigators recover Jessica's phone, and they figure out that her and Quentin had been texting in the days leading up to the terrible accident and the morning of the tragic day. One text message from Quentin to Jessica read, "I'm To which Jessica responded, "Oh Lord." They also then review CCTV footage from the gas station that night, and surveillance footage shows Jessica pulling in, walking towards the door, but then looking off to the side, almost as if she was talking to someone. She steps off camera, comes back into frame 2 minutes later, pays for her gas, and then leaves. But that was the last time that she was ever seen alive on video. So by this point, investigators had spoken to hundreds of witnesses and potential suspects, but the one and only person who really was starting to look suspicious was 27-year-old Quinton Tellis, given that they had been in contact in the days leading up to the accident as well as the exact day of. So his initial story is that him and Jessica are just friends, but the text messages between them lead investigators to believe otherwise. And they talk to him about this, and then he ends up changing his story, saying that yes, they had been romantically involved. He then admits that the two of them had been intimate in her car in a field behind his house. He says that they had done this multiple times, but not the day of the accident. So investigators decide to look into him a little bit deeper. They go and search his property, and at his property, they find a gas can in a shed behind his house, I think. Regardless, Quinton is holding on to his story that he was not with Jessica that night. He actually claimed that he had an alibi because he was in the near town of Batesville buying a prepaid card for his girlfriend. So investigators gathered that CCTV footage from that store in Batesville. And surveillance video does show him at that store purchasing a card at 8:26 p.m. And remember, the 911 call about the burning card came in at 8:07. The store that he was in, it was in a different town, but it was only around a 15-minute drive from the gas station. So realistically, he would have had enough time to get from the crime scene to that store. So it's not looking great for him, especially because it was proven that he already lied to the police once about saying they were just friends when really they were more than that. But still, police don't arrest him just yet. They let him go, but then a huge discovery is made when they get cell phone data back. And that data was very alarming because it showed that Jessica's phone and Quinton's phone had been moving together the night of the crime, from the gas station to behind his house to the scene of the fire. And then both phones go completely dark for around 37 minutes, which is when investigators believe that Jessica was unalived. Quinton keeps changing his story each time they approach him with new information, which again only proves that he was a liar. 14 months later, Quinton Tellis finally gets arrested and charged with capital murder. His trial does not begin until October of 2017. But in trial, it's the prosecutor's argument that Quinton was responsible for Jessica's passing. They suggested that his motive for this could have been that maybe Jessica rejected him, that she turned him down, that maybe she didn't want to be intimate with him that night, and that maybe that was the thing that made Quinton very angry. They believed that there was some sort of struggle, that Quinton went home, grabbed the gas, came back, and then set her and her car on fire. But the defense says, hold on, if Jessica knew him, if Jessica knew that she was with him that night, if she saw him and knew who did this to her, why would she not have said his name to firefighters that night when they asked him who it was? Why did she say something that sounded like Eric or Derek? Why would she not have just said Quinton if she knew who did it? The trial ended in a hung jury. It was declared a mistrial. In 2018, the second trial began. This time, they brought in a burn specialist who said that Jessica's injuries were so bad that she could not have been speaking clearly, meaning that what sounded like Eric or Derek could have been anything. They also showed bruising on her body that was not caused by the fire, backing up the theory that she was likely in some sort of struggle before the flames. Still, the jury cannot decide. 6 say not guilty, the other 6 say guilty. It's declared another mistrial. And then when it feels like it can't get any messier, it does, because in 2015, a 34-year-old woman by the name of Mandy is found brutally unalived in her apartment in Louisiana. Her body had been there for 10 days. Police find her debit card missing, and it's been used after she was already deceased. Card records leave them to Quinton Tellis, and then he's charged with card fraud and later on charged with her murder as well. Quinton is currently serving time for that in a prison in Mississippi, expecting to be released in 2027, but to this day, no one has ever been convicted for Jessica Chambers' death. Her mom passed away in 2021, never seeing justice for her daughter. I had heard about this case, but I did not realize that it went to trial and was declared a mistrial twice, and that no one is serving time for what happened to her. It's unbelievable, and it's so sad. Anyway, that is all I have for today's story. Let me know your thoughts on this, because honestly, what the thank you guys for spending time with me today and for listening to Jessica's story. I hope you guys are having the best day. If not, go do something to make it the best day. Make somebody happy, and I will see you in my next video. Massive kiss on the forehead to every single one of you.